Is this the end for nuclear?
Oh, no, God, we're going to work through all those. I don't think nuclear was the reason we lost this. I think this was a SMIC campaign by Labor, destroying Peter Dutton's character. That's what it was. I think many people were more interested about the cost of living crisis. They saw that as something over the horizon. That's why we talked a lot about gas. So we'll sit down, obviously, after this and work through the policies positions and make sure they're fit for purpose and fit for the future.
How significant was the work from home policy? Because it was after that there was something of a swing against the coalition.
Yeah, I think that we've got to be honest, that wasn't handled well. But, I mean, Peter had the courage to say we got it wrong. And I think that to me says more about the character of somebody that, so when they get it wrong, they're prepared to admit it and to move on.
Were you consulted on that, though? Were you consulted? Because I heard it didn't go through shadow cabinet.
Yeah, well, I think basically it was weaponised to the extent
no, but my question is, were you consulted? Were you consulted?
No, so what I'm saying, yeah, so what I'm saying is that I think that some of the comments that were made allowed it to be weaponised to the extent that wasn't our position. But I mean, Labor was SMIC again. They were quick off the mark. They picked whatever they could, and they opened up a vein and they tapped it as quickly as they could. Now that got away from us. We've got to be honest.
David Littleproud, sorry, I'm going to ask you this again. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you this again. Were you consulted before that work from home policy was announced by Jane Hume?
No, it was talked broadly, but the extent and how far it went was another matter. But, I mean, in terms of where Jane went, I think in principle there was a lot of support for what Jane was doing. We wanted to make sure, as Chris Minns had done in New South Wales, as he'd asked his public service to go back to the office after COVID-19. We wanted to get some balance back in it, and that's where Jane was going with it. And I don't think Jane has anything to answer for here. It was SMIC politics by the Labor. They did it very well. They tapped a vein and they tapped it and opened it up widely.
How do you feel about Peter Dutton losing his seat?
Oh, I think our parliament's going to be poorer for it. I get to see the real Peter Dutton. He is a man I trust. He genuinely is, and he is a nice guy, despite what image has been portrayed of him. He's a caring man, and I think our parliament will be lesser for it, but it's been richer for him being there. And obviously, Peter will obviously have some time now to be back with Kiralee and the family and to give back. But just to understand that politics is brutal. There's a human toll to this, and he and his family are facing that brutal toll this morning. But he can leave with his head held high. He's changed the country and done some great things for us. And now it's just time for us to reflect as a coalition and to come back and to dust ourselves off. You've got to learn the lessons of this and move on.
Who do you think are the contenders to lead the Liberal Party? We've had the panel talk about Dan Tehan today. Obviously, Angus Taylor, Andrew Hastie, Susan Lee would be seen as contenders. Do you see all of them as contenders? Anyone else?
Yeah, look, this will be a matter for the Liberal Party to work through. And I think, obviously, losing Peter leaves a huge void. So that's something they'll work through their own internal process. And I think it's important that the environment's created for them to be able to do that. And I think there's obviously some hurt and there's some rawness, not only for them but for all of us, that they have to work through. And I don't think making comments and adding to commentary when people are raw will add to any value to that, but the Liberals will work through that process and they'll work through that swiftly once some of these polls are declared. The voting's still being counted as we speak, so
sure.
Obviously there's some close contests that are still going on.
Well, just finally, how much was Donald Trump a factor in this election?
Well, I think what, again, Anthony Albanese and the Labor team were able to do was to really tap into these issues and then paint Peter and destroy his character. They were SMIC. You've just got to say, when they found that niche, they actually opened it up and they opened up that crack and really let the floodgates open. And I think there's a lesson in how they did politics. They did it a lot better than us, and you've got to acknowledge that. They're a slick machine, and all credit to their machine and their federal director as well. This is an emphatic win. We've got to admit that. But I think they used those types of pivot points very effectively in trying to paint Peter and his character, and effectively that made him unelectable in the eyes of the Australian people.
Just briefly, David Littleproud, I assume you're wanting to stay on as Nationals leader. Are you expecting any form of challenge?
Oh, well, look, I'm not getting ahead of myself. I'd love to continue on as the leader of the Nationals, but we have a cultural process to go through. All the positions open up, but I'm proud of the positions that we took over the last 3 years with the Voice, with nuclear, but also with divestiture, and to be able to come back when there's been carnage right across the electoral spectrum for the coalition. For us to stand here and say we're going to get everybody back and potentially put another 1 or 2 in, I think we've done a pretty good job. And I thought our campaign as Nationals has been very disciplined, and I thank all my team for that. But I don't take anything for granted. I'm humbled to be the leader of the Nationals forever how long that gift is bestowed on me by the party room.
David Littleproud, thanks so much for your time.